Christine remembers being completely drained of energy, unable to do anything at all, like her eyes crossed, they just would not budge. Instinctively, as a mother, she knew something was horribly wrong. This was not merely a severe case of the flu. Something truly was happening. Cody, on the other hand, dismissed it as just another kid bug, the kind that cycles through in a large family where somebody is always catching something. He figured Christine had it all in hand. She was a good mom, after all. The official narrative was truly Brown's 2014 hospitalization was a tragic accident, the flu that somehow got away from her and turned into a terrifying medical emergency. Years before, fans had thought this version as among the most sensational in the history of the family, a close brush with death and a happy ending. But what if it wasn't an accident? What if it was all a masterfully staged myth intended to cover up something more sinister? What if a life was put in danger of a child in an evil game of mind? Hello and welcome to TLC Sister Wives Real News, the courthouse. We are opening case file number 021 today. In this exhaustive investigation, we will go to a second floor, a hypothetical suit for gross medical negligence and reckless endangerment against Cody and Robin Brown. On the basis of inside sources, inside exclusive speculation, and hard work fact-checking the facts, we plan to prove that Truly's close call with death was not an accident, but one with a special intent. Before we go into the courtroom, let this be remembered, a mother's instinct never has to be neglected, and truth no matter how repulsive must be revealed. If you do, subscribe and like the channel and the notification bell. Just sit with yourself in the jury, you won't miss any bit of evidence. To understand the alleged conspiracy, we must dissect the official narrative. It's 2014. The Browns, who had left Utah in a hurry, are now divided among 4 homes on a Las Vegas cul-de-sac. One family has been splintered, with Cody shuttling between 4 wives and a virtual army of children. Family dynamics are strained. Hostilities simmer just beneath the surface. In the midst of this domestic chaos, 3-year-old Truly falls ill. A regular flu, it turns bad and becomes a fatal disease. On television, the plot is rapid. One morning she has a fever, the next morning she is in kidney failure. The show shows Christine being a panicked, anxious mom who is horrified, while Cody and the other wives dismiss the incident as just the flu. It is made out to be a cautionary regarding how quickly a normal illness can be fatal. But even so, something didn't quite ring true to audiences: offhand comments, contradictory actions, and no urgency. Cody's initial dismissal of Christina's instincts didn't resonate. Christina's loneliness was not dramatized. Sure, the show left audiences with the feeling that the family was coming together in times of crisis, but looking closer, there is something else, a divided family with ailing child in the middle. The lawsuit argues Truly's sudden medical decline wasn't so sudden after all. It was the horror of willful abandonment. There is a reason for every crime, and in this case, the accusation goes beyond stupidity or disastrous error, it suggests intent. The seeds of this alleged conspiracy predate Truly's illness, planted years earlier in the soil of Cody's growing resentment and obsession with control. One key flashpoint was Cody and Robin's extravagant 11-day honeymoon. Unlike the modest weekend getaways other wives received, this long vacation highlighted favoritism and inflamed tensions. Christine voiced her objections, insisting, "It's not fair. We're a family, how is this fair?" Her rebellion against Cody's rule was read as disobedience. Sources close suggest that Cody was hearing noises of complaint, but not as grievances, rather as treason. Robin is reported to have seconded this portrayal, labeling Christina's grievances as cheap jealousy. Meanwhile, Christine was defining her independence, returning to work, discovering her voice, and building a life separate from identity as wife and mother. To Cody, whose own identity was based on untrammeled control, such independence was appalling. And against this background of tension, favoritism, and perceived disobedience was Truly's illness staged, a crisis in a family simmering with underlying tensions. To Cody Brown, a wife insisting on independence wasn't just infuriating, it was a challenge to his authority, an eroding of the basis of his tightly run home. As the suit portrays it, he perceived Christina's growing independence as defiance and not personal growth that had to be quashed. And the tactic, as reported? A chilling, unconscionable strategy, attack where she was most vulnerable, her child. Truly's illness, the suit alleges, was not the cause of the crisis, it was the instrument. It became a warped instrument to demonstrate Christina's supposed ineptitude, to establish that she was unable to live in her own right or with his sanction. The stage was set for a dreadful conflict of authority and the life of a 3-year-old child was destroyed. The prosecution interprets the story into one of willful neglect. This wasn't passive neglect on the part of beleaguered parents, this was active indifference. The suit alleges Cody and Robin made conscious decisions to ignore warning signs and cut off access to medical treatment, bringing an eminently treatable disease down nearly to the level of a fatal experience. Reconstructing the sequence of events in those final days reveals the suspected pattern. Day 1 and 2, does develop a fever and becomes lethargic, typical flu-like symptoms. Christine monitors her daughter, provides liquids, and reduces the fever, but has mother's instincts that something is woefully wrong. At the end of day 2, she pleads with Cody, "I'm really worried about Truly. She's not breaking the fever and just lies there. I should take her in to see the doc tomorrow." Cody's response, the lawsuit claims, was controlling and condescending. "It's just a flu, Chris. Don't overreact. Let her rest. She'll be fine." Not a judgment, this was a dictate disguised as reassurance, disenfranchising Christina's concern and forbidding her from calling in a doctor. The pecking order had been decided, the patriarch decides what is cause for alarm, the mother's intuition can be ignored. The cover-up speeds along with the family pediatrician. On morning day 3, the clinic sent a general alert to all patients. The key point of contact? Cody Brown. When he heard the warning, he read it, saw it, and consciously did not pass it on to Christine. Why? Because the information would have had him providing her with the proof she required to cross him and receive immediate medical attention, cutting his test short before he even got to start it. While this was going on, Robin supposedly vouched for Cody's tale, making Christina's warning sound sensational, presenting a collective front of denial. The next 72 hours were the worst time. True's symptoms grew worse, her lethargy intensified, color drained, and she could no longer keep fluids in her system. Christine recalls her daughter's eyes crossing and remaining crossed, a menacing omen that her body was closing down. In court, the most incriminating evidence is unveiled, telephone records subpoenaed. Christine phoned Cody 17 times in 48 hours of desperation, with no return call. Meanwhile, Cody and Robin were texting 128 times. His phone was never off. He wasn't busy. He was busy texting, but not with the mother of his desperately ill child. The prosecution suggests those calls weren't harmless, they were a live argument about the deliberate test being administered. Every refused call was allegedly a move in a game of control of the mind, leaving Christine with a lose-lose. Do your husband's bidding and harm your child, or defy him and endure his wrath. That wasn't emotional manipulation, it was survival control. But finally, after days of dismissal and gaslighting, motherhood in Christine could no longer be contained. In a burst of enraged defiance, she shifted, something that would have probably saved Truly's life. The ticking clock, the warnings that were ignored, the manipulated silence, all moved toward a high-stakes test of courage, instinct, and survival. Christine had finally had enough. She quit calling Cody. She quit asking permission. She made a life-or-death choice for a fleeting moment. She put Truly in the car and drove her to the emergency room. She chose between her daughter and her husband in that moment. The trip to the hospital was chaotic but organized, a flurry of panicked movement. The triage nurses immediately knew this wasn't just a bad case of the flu. Anonymous reports from a retired employee of this channel tell of Truly having been totally unresponsive upon intake. Her tiny frame was in pieces due to severe dehydration, the kidneys failing, a diagnosis of acute kidney failure. The body itself was poisoning internally. Doctors went into crisis mode, administering intravenous fluids and preparing for dialysis. The following 24 hours were make or break. And Cody? When he finally arrived, warning him were not Christine but hospital staff. He was the shocked, concerned father, but Suit says it was a setup. His genuine shock, the suit suggests, was that his sadistic test had gone too far, that control had slipped from his grasp. Truly would have spent 11 fearful days in the hospital, days of dread, intensive care, and doubt, days which subsequently were retold on television as a miraculous recovery from an acute illness. The lawsuit contends, however, the miracle was neither divine providence nor high-tech medical technique but the defiance of a mother who would not allow her child to become collateral damage in a violent game of conquest. Years down the line, the troubled family is still a legacy of the 11 days. Christine has split up with Cody, but freedom she fought for is hers once more, and the scars are present. And Judgment Day, in our make-believe court drama. At Clark County District Court, Day 1 of the civil trial, Christine Brown for Truly vs. Cody and Robin Brown. Gross negligence and intent to put in harm's way are charges set forth in opening statements. Anna Kararma, lawyer for Christine, addresses the court. Members of the jury, Your Honor, this is no innocent mistake. This is a calculated, vicious campaign of cruelty of the mind in which a 3-year-old child was exploited. We will demonstrate that Cody and Robin Brown recklessly ignored signs of life-threatening hazard, withheld medical attention, and did so for revenge against Christine Brown for trying to exert her own independence and retake control of their residence. What they did was not negligent, it was repulsive. The defense paints an alternate picture, a tearful misunderstanding in large, boisterous family, an overbearing father, and a 1 in a million adverse medical reaction to illness. But a mess. Kararma is not without points, and evidence. Bitter, irrefutable facts. The prosecutor begins by presenting certified telephone records for the 48 hours leading up to Truly's hospitalization. The courtroom crackles. They document a drama of frantic mother pleas answered with heart-stopping callousness. Cody might be able to plead he was not available, but the records indicate he placed 128 calls to Robin in the same time frame, engaged communication, admittedly, but not with the mother of his ill child. The defense's weaknesses begin to emerge. One joining to put to rest any remaining doubts is, Dr. Eleanor Vance, a board-certified pediatric nephrologist with over 25 years of experience and director of pediatric renal unit at Nevada Children's Hospital. She has reviewed Truly's complete medical history during her 11-day hospital stay. Unlike family members and commentators, Dr. Vance is a professional. Her account will translate technical medical data into written language that unveils the actual risk Truly was facing, the very kind of her kidney failure, and the nearly deadly outcome of the suspected neglect. Vance begins, the bolus filtration system are the kidneys. They filter toxins out of the blood, regulate the fluid in the body, and maintain the body's essential chemical balances. When the kidneys fail in a child, the body's internal world becomes toxic within minutes. Delay by even hours can be catastrophic. Her words hang in the court like a fog. The testimony, supplemented by the phone records and timeline chart, is conclusive. A mother ignored. A father absent in body but very present in control. A child on the edge. The jury leans forward. The prosecution has built its case step by step, layer by layer. Each call dodged, each treatment delayed, each manipulation is in a pattern to exert control and punish autonomy, and a child's life is the collateral damage. The defense will plead chaos and disinformation, but the facts are deafening. Actually survived, but the trial, even in hypothetical terms, begs the court to ask, what if survival came too late? Dr. Eleanor Vance was summoned to the witness stand and immediately dominated the courtroom. She informed us in stark, no-nonsense language what becomes of a child when his kidneys fail. The kidneys are the bolus filtration system, she explained. When they stop working, toxins build up, and the body begins to shut down. Projecting it onto Truly's case, she debunked the defense's theory that the sickness was a typical flu that took an unexpected turn. Absolutely not, she responded. Her kidney failure did not happen in hours. Her catastrophic lab results reveal a systemic collapse of at least 72 hours, 3 entire days, duration due to utter dehydration. The courtroom went silent. Cody squirmed in his chair. Vance continued that the external symptoms, excessive lethargy, sunken eyes, dry mouth, absence of tears, and significantly reduced output of urine, were impossible to miss. Even a parent with no medical background would be able to recognize these as death portents. When Christine reported Truly as listless and crossing her eyes, Dr. Vance reaffirmed that strabismus is a death portent of an extreme electrolyte imbalance and dehydration, one of the last signs of impending organ failure. And had Christine called 72 hours earlier, Dr. Vance emphasized, Truly would most likely have been given 4 fluids for dehydration and released, her 11-day hospitalization, kidney failure, and potential requirement for dialysis all circumvented. The word preventable hung in the air. The expert testimony mercilessly debunked the defense theory, demonstrating an incremental, measurable decline that allegedly did not register. Next up was Cody Brown. Karama stood up and addressed him directly, Mr. Brown, during the 48 hours preceding Truly's hospitalization, did you see your daughter when she had severe, unmistakable symptoms? Cody evaded, explaining that he was busy running back and forth between houses and trusted Christine to handle it. Karama persisted, you were called by Christine 17 times during this period. Did you take the calls? Cody's tone turned indignant, I was busy. My phone rings constantly. I couldn't take every call. The prosecution had the damning comeback, 128 texts back and forth with Robin within the same time period. Cody tried to brush it off as family and business planning. Charama's response was biting and to the point, was family logistics your daughter's health? You heard her mother scream, and you chose 17 times to do nothing. Is that what happened? Cody tried to deflect by accusing Christine of being histrionic and dramatic. The courtroom gasped. You thought she was dramatizing, mess. Karama stated. So you, who are not a product of a medical school, thought your own natural instinct was inferior to yours? Cody's defense continued to erode. The prosecutor then attempted to introduce Exhibit B, an email warning from a family pediatrician on the 3rd day of Truly's illness, in which she reported a lethal strain of flu. Vance and MS. Karama framed the evidence to show that this crucial warning had reached Cody but allegedly not Christine. The tale was straightforward, what could have rescued Truly in hours was delayed, allegedly for control, and the outcome had almost deadly consequences. The courtroom was electrified. Each point, each document, each neglected call contributed to the prosecution's case, a mother's instinct overridden, a child's life put at risk, and a father's deliberate choices prioritizing control over protection. The trial was no longer a war of mistakes, it was a clash with willful indifference. The prosecution changed gears to the final hours prior to Truly's hospitalization, bringing into view an email warning from the family pediatrician of a sudden and deadly type of flu. Directed to Cody Brown as the initial contact point, the email urged immediate medical treatment for such symptoms as extreme lethargy. Karama asked, did you receive this email, Cody? Cody feigned distraction, stating he gets several hundred a day. But the prosecution was direct, he ignored 17 calls from his frantic daughter's mother while allegedly ignoring a dire medical alert. Vance asserted that Truly's kidneys were failing for 3 days, a slow deterioration which could not have escaped notice. Cody grew testier as he groused, insisting that he was being a husband and a father, serving a large plural family with several wives and children. He complained he had left matters in Christina's capable hands. Charama's tone dipped, cold and clipped, you didn't trust her. You tested her. You were angry with her rejection of your honeymoon with Robin. Angry with her independence. You read her strength as defiance, so you decided to let her struggle, to challenge whether she could do without you. You played chicken with the life of your kid to hurt her mother, didn't you? Cody sprang to his feet, bellowing, objection. A lie. ID never hurt my kid. But the court had already seen the evidence, his alibis crumbling before the tidal wave of medical records, phone records, and expert testimony. Next was Robin Brown's turn. She conceded she was in constant contact with Cody. Truly was ill but tried to position herself as being supportive, admitting to trusting Christine and Cody. Karama questioned, with the outcome showing Robin having purportedly instructed Cody not to respond to calls from Christine and informing her specifically that Christine was dramatizing. Robin's crying and denial sounded false in court, the records and testimony showing her less as a witness, more as an aider and abettor in a willful disregard of a child's suffering. And last, the emotional core of the case, Christine herself. She wrote, in agonized detail, of the desolation and despair she lived through. "It was the loneliest I have ever felt," she wrote. "I was in a house full of children, alone. I felt like I knew something was wrong. The sparkle in her eyes was missing. I was yelling for help into the void. When she called Cody, she received nothing. All I was worried about was her. She took the witness stand to testify before Truly. I knew my submission to my husband was going to kill my child. I was no longer a sister wife, I was a mother. I buckled her into the car seat, like little rag doll, and raced every speed limit to the hospital. I walked in and I said, 'My daughter is dying. Help me.' And they did. Finally, they did. But he should have been there. He should have been the one." Christina's testimony was heartbreaking, projecting not only an image of medical neglect but of profound emotional abandonment. It showed how this was not so much a lapse in judgment as a breach of the most fundamental trust between parent and child, wife and husband. The defense made one final, desperate plea, painting Cody as a flawed but good father, driven by his lifestyle and misreading a moment of crisis, and suggesting that Christine was taking posthumous revenge. Such arguments seemed flimsy, though, against the pyramid of evidence, telephone records, pediatric warnings, expert testimony, and the mother's eyewitness account of near tragedy. Karama was poised to make her finale, walking solidly in front of the jury. For days, she testified, judge, jury, and Dr. Cody Brown. He judged Christina's maternal instincts hysteria. He dismissed her warning. He put a child's life at risk to exert control. This is not a case about a mistake. It is a tale of deliberate choices, misuse of power, and the mother's courage of not allowing the daughter to become a victim in such an unkind game. This case for this jury is simple. Whose testimony wins when the life of a child is in question, the parent at the bedside, or the one who's always in charge from a distance? The courtroom was on edge. Every shred of evidence, every witness, every document testified to the rhetoric of neglect, manipulation, and motherly bravery. The trial, actual or perceived, had revealed a horrific reality. The boundary between life and death may hinge not on luck or fate but on whether the powerful do, or do not. The prosecution closing speech hit with bald reality. Cody had been the sole decision-maker in his daughter's life, listening only to advice from his co-conspirator, Robin. 17 unanswered calls, a pediatric life or death warning disregarded, 72 hours of a child's life quietly being lost. Karama begged the jury to consider how grave were such choices. Was it a mistake 17 times? Was it a mistake to ignore the pediatrician's caution? Was it a mistake to put patriarchal pride over a child's agony for 72 hours? No. It wasn't a mistake. It was a string of cold, calculated choices. They chose power over parentage. Domination over compassion. And in doing so, they put a 3-year-old on the brink of death. You today have the power to choose otherwise. Make a choice for justice in Truly Brown. Hold them accountable. The jury retired and deliberated, and their verdict was unmistakable. Cody and Robin Brown were held accountable for gross medical negligence and conspiracy to commit reckless endangerment. But the courtroom drama was just beginning. The judge, removing his glasses and looking down at Cody, was speaking to him with unusual passion. In 30 years of sitting on this bench, I have never seen such a cold, selfish, and ghastly disregard for a child's life from her own parents.